You're listening to a Rhino.com podcast. Yes, you are.
Welcome to another Rhino cast. Today's show includes the Lefsetz Letter with Bob Lefsetz, followed by interviews with Sam Moore and the creators of the insomnia-curing classical music collection Bedtime Beats, The Secret to Sleep. Stay tuned.
It's getting to the point where I'm no fun anymore. I am sorry. Sometimes it hurts so badly I must cry out loud. I am lonely. I am yours. You are mine. You are what you are. You make it hard. Remember what we've said and done and felt about each other. Oh, babe, have mercy.
That's a hard song to stop, but you probably sing the whole thing to yourself. Hey, it's Bob Lefsetz on the weekly Rhino cast. Of course, the phenomenal opener to the very first Crosby, Stills and Nash album, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Stills ode to Judy Collins. Now, that's on some level one of those songs you never have to hear again because it's been overplayed. It represents something different. But to go back to 1969, this was his debut. I mean, Stephen Stills has been reviled for having too large an ego. But if Stephen Stills had died after this record, he'd be as big as Jim Morrison. 1969, Crosby, Stills and Nash record came out. It wasn't that big a deal, okay? Some of these records took a longer time to build. Now, it's interesting because I bought them simultaneously, Led Zeppelin's debut and Crosby, Stills and Nash's album, and they both took a long time to hit. And when the second record came out, the second Led Zeppelin album, Led Zeppelin 2, came out in October of 1969, instant smash, whole lot of love. Everybody knew it, both the Hyptum, then I Hyptum. The same thing in the March of 1970 with Deja Vu. But the records themselves, and that was uncommon at that point. It usually take you 3 or 4 albums to break through. It's funny, I get emails from people, oh, it's an incredible artist development story. We took a band and on the first album we sold 1 million records. That's not artist development. That's like selling a record. There's no development. The record's set in stone. Okay? It's when the act actually develops and, and writes new material and expands, it gets better. That's artist development. Usually they're working day jobs by that time today. But there wasn't this incredible hoopla about Crosby, Stills and Nash. Buffalo Springfield, revered by a certain crowd, but really known for that one hit. The Stills pen for what it's worth. The band broke up. No one was really paying attention. Most people didn't even know that David Crosby was in the Byrds. Okay. They saw it as Jim McGuinn, now Roger McGuinn's band. And they could not have picked Graham Nash out of a lineup in terms of the Hollies. The Hollies were a faceless band. They did some great lightweight stuff, whether it be Carrie Ann, Bus Stop. He was certainly a part of those records. You go back and listen now, you hear it. But you didn't know. I mean, so this record came out, I wasn't really that interested, but to be honest with you, I bought a Country Joe and the Fish record. Huge Country Joe and the Fish fan. And I bought the third album at a head shop in Chicago. I was spending the summer there, and it was defective. And I returned it, and I said, no, I'll get the Crosby, Stills and Nash record. That's the way I remember it now. It's funny things. After the podcast, sometimes they go, no, now I get it. Should do it a little addendum. But these things are written in stone. So you bought that record. I just lament the fact that you cannot hear that in vinyl. To drop the needle on Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, the acoustic guitars, everybody picked up acoustic guitars just to play that kind of music. And, some of the guitar work as the song marches on. But the album was just a steady builder because they released dumb singles like this.
Looking at the world through the sunset in your eyes, traveling the train through clear Moroccan skies, ducks and pigs and chickens call, animal carpet wall to wall, American ladies 5 foot tall and blue, sweeping cobwebs.
I can't even get to the chorus, I never liked that song then, never liked it to this day. But everything else on this album is a total winner, except maybe another Graham Nash song, Lady of the Island. But you heard those two sounds. I want to play the album in order. The third song is so deep with such a different vibe. Crosby's a little overrated, but listen to his Guinevere about one of his old girlfriends.
Had green eyes like yours, lady, like yours. She'd walk down through the garden in the morning after it rained.
You know, it's funny. If I hear today's beat-driven music, I think about, what I have to do that morning or the jobs I have to take care of. I listen to that. All the history of Crosby, Stills, and Nash comes back. They used to be involved with Joni Mitchell, actually. Graham Nash, she referred to him as Willie and wrote a song about him on Ladies of the Canyon. She trumpeted them, and it was a whole thing about their harmonies, and they love to, show everybody up by playing and showing how great they were. And just listening to that music, if you like that, get the first David Crosby solo album, If I Could Only Remember My Name. Unfortunately, there aren't that many high points. It's got a lot of kind of wordless music. There's Song with No Words, I think, is one of the actual tracks on it. But Tamil Pie High at 3 p.m., which is about going and looking at all the girls coming out of the high school in Mill Valley, and Music Is Love, which has got this little Neil Young vocal at the end, which is great. But it's the songs that never get played that really make you love this album, and really why everybody's anticipating the first Stills solo record. Listen to You Don't Have to Cry.
In the morning when you rise, do you think of me and how you left me crying? Are you thinking of telephones and managers and where you got to be at noon? You are living a reality I left years ago. It quite nearly killed me. In the long run, it will make you cry, make you crazy, oh, before your time. And the difference,
there's a part where Stills sings more, but this would happen in the later period. What happens is bands become successful and guy says, no, I'm doing it totally my own way. But he wrote the song and they let everybody else sing. And this is why we love the act so much, and why they can still tour 35 years later is because of songs like You Don't Have to Cry. Certainly, there's a core of people who want to hear Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. But the other people who played this album, who, rolled joints in between the gatefold cover, then what I believe, closing out the first side, my favorite Nash song, Pre-Road Downs.
I have kissed you, so I'll miss you. On the road, I'll be wanting you. But I have you, 'cause I love you. And you have me, 'cause you love me too.
That guitar work makes the record. As I say, there's a certain warmth. I believe the guitars were killed by the CD. I really do. I mean, CDs are kind of okay for metal music, but a certain warmth, a certain tonality cannot be rendered at the sampling rate. The kind of stuff you hear in hip-hop, the beats, it sounds better on CD. Where if you heard this, if vinyl still ruled, or something that sounded as good as vinyl with all the overtones, this kind of music would come back. Acoustic music would come back because there's a way that this resonates with you. It's not an assault that makes you feel warm, makes you feel happy to be alive. The second side opened with Wooden Ships. Now, fascinatingly, there's sort of a back and forth vocal. On all the original pressings, the vocals weren't loud enough when they talk about the purple berries. And eventually they fixed that. Uncredited on the Crosby, Stills, and Nash record in the spring of '69 was Paul Kantner of Jefferson Airplane, who helped write this song. That was the spring of '69. This Crosby, Stills, and Nash album came out. In the fall of '69, just around the time of Thanksgiving, Volunteers by Jefferson Airplane came out. This has been a completely forgotten record, maybe because of the political angle, but their version of Wooden Ships is better than this version. As great as this version is, it's got a different vibe. It's got a vibe almost like being out on the ocean. Crosby was a legendary sailor. And also on Volunteers has Good Shepherd. It has Eskimo Blue Day. I remember they played that on the intercom in my school. That's where they had the line, doesn't mean shit to a tree. And they banned us from using the intercom before school for like 2 weeks. But Crosby and Stills are the other credited writers, play a little bit of Wooden Ships.
Something everybody everywhere does in the same language. I can see by your coat, my friend, you're from the other side. Just one thing I got to know, can you tell me please? I've been eating them for 6 or 7 weeks now. I haven't got sick once. Probably keep us both alive. Wooden ships on the water, very free and easy. Easy, you know the way it's supposed to be. Silver on the shoreline, let us be talking about very free and easy.
Just listening to this, I say, you couldn't get away with a song like this today. You go to see Clive Davis, he goes, well, we need a verse, we need a chorus, we need a bridge. Here's something like this. Well, this is a commercial. I won't be able to play it on Top 40 Radio, but we didn't care about Top 40 Radio at that point. It was about free format. This is FM radio. This was before Lee Abrams, who's now a friend of mine, came in and ruined rock radio by formatting it, turning it into AOR. He's doing a great job at XM now, which I highly recommend. As tight as he made the playlists at rock radio in the 70s, that's how loose they are over at XM, trying to atone for all his sins. The lyrics a little bit different, very tiny, but you heard listen to these records so many times back then. The Jefferson Airplane version, this is still when they were the Airplane before they became the Starship shortly thereafter. Actually, Paul Kantner's first solo record was called Starship, which came out about, a year later. And that's a pretty good record, the very first one. They say, who won the war? So the guitars, everything. I'm going to skip the next track, Lady of the Island. There's really nothing wrong with it. I just do not love it as much. And it's kind of funny because of the initial solo records. And we were so in such anticipation of Stephen Stills' record, the one that started with Love the One You're With, and it had Hendrix on, and Hendrix had just died. There was a slight disappointment compared to this album. But really, of the debut solo records of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the best is Nash, Songs for Beginners. Wounded Bird, I Used to Be a King, phenomenal stuff. Doesn't hold up quite as well as one would hope, but at the time, I just loved that record. He really found his note. But track 8, another one of those subtle but resonant Stills tracks, Helplessly Hoping.
Helplessly hoping her harlequin, others nearby, awaiting a word, gasping at glimpses of gentle true spirit. He runs, wishing he could fly, only to trip at the sound of goodbye.
This presaged the great work on the subsequent album, 4 and 20. I remember living, I think I talked about this in a previous podcast, living with a guy in Utah. He used to play that over and over again because he was 24. Of course, there was a follow-up record to this, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Nowhere near as good. Had the brilliant Carry On. I used to love that just as much as Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Play that on vinyl every day when I woke up. One morning, I woke up. Well, there's a cover by Alana Davis, is it, who also did Can't Find My Way Home. And I think I did a version of 32 Flavors, the Annie DeFranco song, or Ani DeFranco, who the hell knows how it is. But putting Neil Young in the band changed the element. They wanted another guitarist, but his voice doesn't wholly fit in. And maybe it makes it so they can sell more concert tickets when they reunite today. But the first album was brilliant. I'm going to go to the closer first before I go to my favorite track. The closer is a romp where they tear it up, 49 bye-byes.
You better come in my kitchen because it's going to be raining outside. 49 reasons, all in a line, all of them good ones, all of them lies. Drifting with my lady, we're oldest of friends, need a little work and there's fences to mend. Steady, green my world, turn up the gun, now she's gone. I let that man play his hand, I let them know I was up to no good. I'm down on my knees, nobody left to please.
I'm just hoping the younger generation, the way they discover Zeppelin, could discover something like this. Now, maybe their parents played this when they were in the womb, when they were growing up, kind of like the Beatles. But, this is pure. And when that song ended, you couldn't wait to pick up the needle and play the damn album again. But I'm going to play you my favorite track, which is Long Time Gone. It's a Crosby track, not a Stills track. And Crosby, this was probably his peak. He went on to do Almost Cut My Hair, which was just a little too obvious on the subsequent record. And of course, he and Nash ended up doing backup vocals on a million records, truly subtly, really brilliantly. And they would appear, if you lived in LA at concert, there are a couple of James Taylor records, Gorilla and In the Pocket. They're just brilliant. Flo and Eddie would do the edgier acts. Flo and Eddie would work with Zappa, the guys, from the Turtles. And then, of course, did Hungry Heart with Springsteen. But it was a very heavy, political time, 69 and 70. We're in Vietnam. Richard Nixon was still president. There were a lot of protests. And Long Time Gone has got that feel, but it's got the feel of being in somebody's basement. High school's about alienation. If you fit in high school, you're probably not listening to this now because you're working a day job and your life's incredibly boring. The rest of us, who really relied on music, it's like our lives didn't really work out. I remember being in somebody's basement who I barely knew. I'm kind of a new party, and they're playing the second Mountain album. I was a big Mountain fan. I didn't think the second album was anywhere near as good as the first. Okay, which was really a Leslie West solo record. And I'd been to see him at the Fillmore East, but they were now into it, but it wasn't my thing. But they put on Long Time Gone. I said, this resonates with me. I don't really care what anybody else thinks. And Long Time Gone, I always say, it's like you can hear the mud oozing over the floor. It's like they're starting to sing a song and something is covering the floor and rising up. You're really in your own space. And even on the original CD, never mind the remaster, sounded great. There's a certain distortion that really kind of makes it great. And I could go on and on about it, but hopefully I won't be a long time gone. Till next time, it's Bob Lefsetz on the Rhino Cast, here with my favorite track from the debut Crosby, Stills and Nash record.
It's been a long time coming. It's going to be a long time gone. And it appears to be a long, appears to be a long, appears to be a long. It's a long, 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 long time before the dawn. Turn any corner. Here, you must hear what the people say. You know that something is going on around here. It surely, surely, surely won't stand the light of day. No. And it appears to be a long haul. Yes, it does. Appears to be a long haul. Appears to be a long haul. Time, such a long, long time before the dawn.
Hello and welcome to another Rhino Cast. This is John Cerbalis. I'm here in Austin with Mr. Sam Moore. Hello, Sam.
Hello, my dear friend. How are you?
I'm doing well.
That's good.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you.
And Sam's new record, which will be out this spring on Rhino, is called Overnight Sensational.
That's kind of cute, huh?
I like it.
You like it?
Yeah, it's got a ring to it.
Yeah, I think so.
So you just finished making this new studio record recently with Randy Jackson producing. How was that, and how did you choose the songs and all the great singers appearing on it with you?
Well, that's a good question, and I think I can do it in this order. First, the songs that were originally chosen by myself, some of those songs got on, I would say about 2%, and the rest of them did not. Those songs came about in talking with management and wife and Randy and whatnot. Those songs were chosen at random. It was like, well, something different. They wanted something different. They wanted something challenging. They didn't just want they really didn't want no Sam and Dave, and I was very happy about that. They didn't want any references to songs that maybe everybody go, oh, but I've heard that before. Or if I've heard it before, what's new you can bring to the table with it? Take chances. You know, if it doesn't work, then take it out and find something else.
Yeah, I heard some of the stuff today at the listening party. You've got Billy Preston on there, Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Who were some of the other folks?
Sting, Johnny Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, you know, the boss man himself. We have Paul Carrack. We have Stevie Winwood. We have from Bad Company, which would be Paul Rogers, Becca Bramlett, Winona Judd, a man that from the Christian world, which would be B.B. Winan, which has never, somebody tried to remind me today that he did do something with the Staples. I said, well, the Staples came from gospel, so he still hadn't done any pop, you know, recording with anybody. We have that. We have who else? Who am I forgetting? Travis Tritt. We also have Vince Gill, one of my favorites, Fantasia. Oh, man.
Zucchero, right?
Zucchero, right. And surprisingly, we have Mariah Carey. It was told to me today we have over 20. Over 20. And that's that. There were more that they wanted to come aboard, which we'll do probably do a continuance, maybe not too many, but continuous. But yeah, we have about a little over 20.
Can you talk about a couple of? I'm sure they're all your favorite tracks. You know, each one of them in some sense, but maybe just talk about a couple of the tracks on there, and you know who wrote them and.
Well, when it comes to that writing stuff, I don't, it was, like I said, it was at random, so it was thrown in there, these surprises, because I had my thoughts about other songs. But my favorite out of all of them, I have one. I'm just having fun with that one. That's No Loot by Tony. I love that. That's fun. The other night I did it over and over. And I said this morning, I think that Randy wants me to come back and sing it some more, because I asked him to put my voice in a voice mode, thingy, like like you have helium. And they promised to do it. But that's one of my favorites. My second, if there's a second favorite, would be not my top favorite, but one of my favorites would be what Bruce is doing, because no one has ever heard Bruce Springsteen sing as hard gospel up against what I'm doing with him. I like that. I'm amazed, and I just got that this morning, the Fantasia. Because I was a little concerned, the way we were constructing all this stuff and all these songs. She is very surprising, and I'm very pleased at the way Randy worked with her and got that done. The most amazing of all, can't believe, would be Mariah. God, I think she ran all the birds and bees away with those notes. That, and then that Zucchero, got him in. Oh boy, that sounds so good. Musically, and emotionally, I would have to go with the Preston. You Are So Beautiful. Emotionally, I'll go with that. And what what Eric has done on that. So those are some of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how would you compare this to your long-lost first solo album, which I guess just finally came out recently after being recorded in 1970, was it?
Well, I think with that, I'm not going to say that I think King Curtis would have gotten these people, or any of them for that matter. Some of these people probably were still trying to shopping a deal, trying to get a record deal. So it would be unfair or to say that he would have gone that way with those artists. The only difference is, I think, as a solo performer, I think he was going along the same line Randy was had looked at after talking to him, and he's doing. I think he was going along those lines to try to find a safe haven as far as a style for Sam Moore. I think that's where that is. I think what we've done now, that we haven't found the style because the style is already there. But I think more so than anything that I can sing a little bit, other than singing, I can sing songs other than Soul Man, Hold On I'm Coming, and all that. I can sing other things challenging, and I got to tell you, some of these songs were real challenging. Blame It on the Rain, God, come on, Riding Thumb, the Garth Brooks, Free, challenging.
You talked about Mariah. Mm-hmm. Who are some of the younger singers who impress you today? Do you think there's anyone, and I'm sure you probably do think there's plenty of folks in this generation good enough to carry the torch? And what advice would you have for them?
Oh, I don't have any advice. I wouldn't have any advice because, to tell you the truth, if I did that, it's not to say that they would listen. It's not to say that they would listen. They've got to find, they have to find a niche for themselves. The only thing I would tell them, if they're going to do it, sing, have fun, focus. Not in that order, but have fun and understand what you're singing about. Draw the picture and whatnot. And the young people, the only person that would have concerned me at that time from the new school and whatnot would have been Fantasia. She's come through. She came through. Mariah, I always knew she could sing. But man, can she sing? And then there's Becca Bramlett, man, forget that. But good God. She's going to scare a lot of people. And we also have another singer, would be Winona Judd. You can bring her out of the country, and you would go, she's surprised. You see, I'm telling you, John, this is all some good people. There's not a one on there that you got to worry about going, Sam got to carry them. Sam got to sing in order to make it look good with them being on. Not a one. Not a one. Every one of them is bringing something to the table, and I'm very pleased about that.
Again, Mr. Sam Moore, new record called Overnight Sensational. We're going to sign off. I want to give special thanks to Rhino.com contributor Eric Gladstone, who helped me with these questions. Thanks for being with us, Sam.
Thank you, and let's talk again.
All right, let's do that. What you just heard, you should have heard more of. For the complete, unedited interview, visit the RhinoCast homepage at Rhino.com.
We all know that there are nights when the wind blows cold, sending shivers through the gaping holes which life has chewed out of your mind and heart. We all know that there are days when the sun hangs lazily in the sky, burning your face and neck, while illuminating remembrances of happier times, never to return. When society has declared war on your sense of well-being and left you in a heap of unfathomable regret, there is only one elixir to which a reasonable man can turn. Old Shitface Johnson's Smooth Kentucky Whiskey. Never harsh, always strong. Old Shitface is the first line of defense in your fight against reality. Old Shitface Johnson's Smooth Kentucky Whiskey. Together, we can win this thing.
Whiskey has been known to cause inappropriate remarks and death. Please drink responsibly. Hello and welcome to another Rhino Cast. This is John Sravalis. I am on the phone today with Lisa Mercurio and Cindy Bressler. They are the creators of Bedtime Beats, The Secret to Sleep. Hello, Cindy and Lisa.
Hi, how are you? Hi there.
Doing very well. Thanks for joining us. So we're here to talk about your fine project. It's a 2-CD set. It is comprised of classical music, and it's the tracks are very specially chosen. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think we can do that. This music was basically selected to follow what was a medical protocol, a discovery that music that had a tempo or beat pattern of 60 to 80 beats per minute would have a very tranquil, in fact, sleepy effect on the listener. And when we read about the study and the findings that a nursing team had come across, we were inspired to try and develop a product that would utilize the findings and at the same time take on the insomnia problem of a nation that doesn't sleep. Basically 40 million people that are having problems either falling asleep or staying asleep. So this music has been selected to pretty much provide the sort of most sleepy, tranquil, quiet experience you can from high-end, classical, beautiful recordings.
When I heard the title of the set, Bedtime Beats, I sort of had the impression that maybe this was classical music that was remixed by DJs and, with program beats and such, but it's actually the original recordings. Is that right?
Yep, true to form, the name Bedtime Beats actually came out of the head of my illustrious partner. She called me up one afternoon after we had brainstormed what it could be, and she came up with this fabulous alliterative name. And in fact, you're right, there are a lot of kind of ambient and groove types of disco sounds out there that people have used for beats in the past, but in this particular case, it is pure classical stuff.
So I imagine that the selection process for these 2 CDs worth of music must have been arduous to comb through, the wealth of classical music and find the stuff that falls between 60 and 80 beats per minute. Is that the case?
Well, that's an interesting story. It was kind of a process of discovery for us. On one level, I come from a serious classical background, and I have a live-in serious classical person in the house. My husband is a conductor, so he's well familiar with beats and beat patterns, and he helped to identify some of the music. But we also came across a fascinating bit of music history, and that was that Bach, back in the early 1700s, had composed a very well-known work called the Goldberg Variations for one of the servants that lived in his home who had terrible insomnia. And it turns out that the aria from the Goldberg Variations was the first bit of so-called quote-unquote insomnia music or sedative music that was ever composed for the purposes of putting people to sleep. But there are really so many middle movements or, great works that fall within the 60 to 80 beat per minute. I think that if we hadn't had, that 60 to 80 span to work with, it might have been a little bit more difficult. What we did to this music, though, ultimately was try to create the most seamless listening experience that we could. And so for purposes of mastering, most of the, really, really strong, loud noises were removed. Things were just made a little bit softer throughout, and there are no disturbing moments in the music of any kind. I think it was probably harder to find music that didn't have a very strong sort of climactic moment than it was to find things that fell within 60 to 80 beats per minute.
Well, I certainly think we could all use more quality sleep. Seems like in today's world that's something that's lacking. So we're gonna sign off now, and I appreciate you two ladies being with us. Again, we're here with Lisa.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. We're gonna sign off with Lisa Mercurio and Cindy Bressler. They are the creators of Bedtime Beats.
Sleep on.
What you just heard, you should have heard more of. For the complete, unedited interview, visit the RhinoCast homepage at rhino.com. Log on to rhino.com to purchase CDs, DVDs, and digital downloads related to this podcast. Available titles include Crosby, Stills & Nash, Greatest Hits, Sam Moore, Overnight Sensational, and Bedtime Beats, The Secret to Sleep. New and recent releases at rhino.com include Up From the Catacombs, The Best of Jane's Addiction, A Life Less Lived, The Gothic Box, and The 10 Tenors, Here's to the Heroes. And on DVD, Dream Theater, Score, the 20th Anniversary World Tour, Barbra Streisand, One Voice, and From the Big Apple to the Big Easy, the Concert for New Orleans. Text CSN to 74466 on your mobile phone to get official Crosby, Stills & Nash ringtones. Are we doing a good podcast? Give us your feedback. Win valuable prizes.
Hey, give me some of that now. Hey, I love it.
Visit us at www.rhino.com/podcast/survey and tell us how you like the RhinoCast. You'll be entered to win $500 worth of Rhino products of your choice. That's www.rhino.com/podcast/survey.
Whoops.